I get questions all the time about what are the qualifications in order to take the PMP exam. Well, there's a lot of bad information out on the web. Really, the best source is PMI.org. But I'm going to walk through the qualifications. This is the exact way on how you can qualify for the PMP exam. Not everyone qualifies for the exam. So the PMP requirements, well, you'll complete the application online at PMI.org. Once you submit your application, PMI will review that, and then they will send back an email, your eligibility letter from PMI. Now, this eligibility letter is when you pay for the privilege of taking the PMP exam. It's only after you pay that you find out if your exam will be audited or not. But it's the eligibility letter. You have 1 year from the eligibility letter in order to pass the exam. You can take the test up to 3 times within 1 year. Should you fail all 3 times, then you have to wait 1 year before you can apply again. Now, I mentioned the audit. I'll talk more about the audit process coming up, but know right now, regardless of what you've read anywhere else, the audit is completely random. There is no red flag or keyword that triggers your exam application for an audit. It is random. It's a lottery. It's chance. So what are the paths in order to get to the passing the PMP exam? Well, you start with your education. There's a bachelor's degree or a global equivalent of a bachelor's degree, or you might have a high school diploma, an associate's degree, or a global equivalent. Let's start with the bachelor's degree. So if you have a bachelor's degree, within the last 8 years, you have to have 36 non-overlapping months of project management experience. Now, what that overlapping means is if you have 2 projects that are running in tandem for 18 months, you can't say, well, that's 2 projects times 18 months, so that's 36 months of experience. It has to be a total of 36 months of PM experience. So basically, out of the last 8 years, the sum of your project management experience has to be 36 months. In addition, with a degree, you have to have 4,500 hours leading project management tasks. Now, the cool thing about these 4,500 hours, if you are managing 2 projects in tandem, and so you work 20 hours on project A, and also in that same week, you work 20 hours on project B, that's a total of 40 hours. So only the months are unique. The hours are whatever hours you work on whatever project have to total 4,500. Now let's go back and talk about the high school diploma, the associate's degree, or global equivalent. Again, within the last 8 years, you have to have, though, 60 non-overlapping months of PM experience. So it's a little bit more stringent without the degree. You have to have a total of 7,500 hours leading project management tasks within 8 years. Now, both candidates have to have 35 contact hours of project management education. I'm not going to give you a sales pitch, but if you search my name or you look for the PMP courses, you'll see that Joseph Phillips, that's me, I have a PMP course here on Udemy that does qualify for the 35 contact hours of project management education. My company is a PMI registered education provider, and we can certainly help you get those 35 hours of project management education. The passing score is really unofficial. PMI doesn't really tell us what the passing score is. The rumor, the generally accepted score, is 61%. That's 106 correct questions out of 175 scored questions. Now again, that's unofficial. PMI doesn't tell us the passing score, but that's kind of the tradition from exams past when they did tell us what the passing score was. So those are your requirements. You can't take the exam if you don't fit these requirements. So if you only have 18 months of PM experience, you can't take the exam. You have to have at least 36 months with a degree or at least 60 months of PM experience without a degree. Let's talk more about these non-overlapping months. I get a lot of questions about this. Well, the non-overlapping months, in this example, we got a project manager and he has 3 projects that he's managed. So project A lasts for 12 months. Project B took place in that same time frame. You can see it's a little staggered, and it lasts for 12 months. And Project C lasted for 18 months. So of these 3 projects, this person can't say 12 plus 12 plus 18 for a total of 42 months. No, it's only 18 months within this window. You can't count the overlapping. Now again, the hours though, the hours that the person worked in each month on each project, the sum of those can go towards the 4,500 or the 7,500. So that's acceptable. Now your contact hours that you need for PM education, on your exam, your exam application, they're going to ask you, have you had your project management education? And the answer you'll say is yes, if you've had your PM education. These are contact hours. You can get your contact hours from a number of sources. Ideally, you get those from a PMI registered education provider. If you took a course in college, that counts. There's no time limit as to when you had your project management education. So college project management courses will count. Maybe your company offered a PM course. Well, that will count. And you can do distance learning education, such as what I offer here, and because we do have several end-of-course assessments. So these are your ways that you get contact hours. And then, of course, you can get contact hours by training companies, such as my company. So you want to get contact hours. Now, a lot of people say, oh, I need PDUs. They're wrong. You don't need PDUs. You can't get a PDU until you're a PMP or a PMI RMP or SP or PGMP. You don't get any PDUs until once you've passed an exam. So if you aren't yet a PMP or another PMI certification, what you really want are contact hours. Now, it's kind of splitting hairs here. PMI will say contact hours. Some people will say, oh, you have to get 35 PDUs. No, you don't get a PDU until you pass the exam. So you want contact hours. That's what the exam application says, and that's the requirement. So this is all about continuing education. You have to have 60 PDUs within a 3-year cycle. Now, 45 of your 60 PDUs, it has to be education. There are other ways you can earn PDUs, not just through education. You can volunteer, you can write a book or articles, you can speak at your PMI chapter. So there's all sorts of ways that you can earn additional PDUs. Now, don't worry about this right now. Focus on passing your exam. But just know that after the exam, there's a continuing certification registry, a CCR handbook to recertify, and that will tell you all the different ways you can get PDUs. So worry about that after you pass. Right now, let's focus on passing the exam. Now, what happens if your application is audited? As I mentioned earlier, this is totally random. There's no trigger that you have that's going to make your application get audited. It's by chance. Audits confirm your education and your experience. So you have to verify your education, both your project management education or if you said you had a degree, you have to get transcripts or a copy of your diploma. You'll have to get signatures from your supervisors from the projects reported. Well, what if that supervisor isn't there anymore? You can get another supervisor or another manager from that company to sign the form. So don't worry about that too much. You have 90 days to get all that information to PMI. And then you have to return all of it to PMI. They'll take a couple of days to review it and then tell you passed or not. Now, audits can happen even after the certification. Now, I've been doing this for about 15 years, teaching project management and writing about project management and consulting in project management. So I'm around PMPs all the time. And I have never met anyone or heard of anyone getting audited after the certification. But certainly it can happen. So, of course, the best rule is honesty is the best policy. Now, another question I get is, well, what's it going to cost to take this exam? So let's talk about your exam fees, because of course it's not free. It's $405 if you are a PMI member. It's $555 if you are not a PMI member. All right, how much to join PMI? It's $129 to join PMI. So you can do some math there, and it's going to make sense to join PMI and take the exam rather than abstain and not join PMI. Now, I'm a big advocate of also joining your local PMI chapter. It's a great way to do some networking, hear some good speakers. I've made some great friends through these different PMI chapters, and I speak at a lot of these chapters all over the world, all over the United States, and I've also spoken in chapters in Belgium and the Netherlands and Germany and France and Italy. So all over the world, there's these PMI chapters. So chances are where you live, there's a PMI chapter as well. And it's a great way to get involved with PMI and to meet other project managers. So let's say you're in, you're ready to go, you've got your authorization to test letter, you've cleared the audit or you weren't audited. Now it's time to go pass the exam. Now on the exam, you'll have 175 test questions which are scored. 25 questions are random, sampled, seeded questions. You don't know if you're answering a live question or a seeded question. So there are 200 total questions. Now, these seeded questions, what's happening here? You think about the whole pool of PMP candidates. Depending on how people answer those seeded questions, PMI will make a determination, are these valid? Are they tricky enough? Are they too easy? Are they too hard? And then if they pass their requirements, they'll go into the pool of future PMP test questions. You have 4 hours to pass the exam once you sign into the computer at the Prometric Testing Center. It is a proctored environment, meaning that there's a person in the testing room that will walk around and make certain everyone's following the rules and no funny business is going on and everybody's quiet. Now, when you go into the Prometric Testing Center, you're taking the PMP exam, but there will be other people taking other types of exam. So not everybody's there to take the PMP. So some people might be taking a nursing exam or a different IT exam or even a CAPM or a PGMP exam. So what happens is you log into the system and then your exam is displayed on your computer at Prometric. Now Prometric will have some rules that you have to adhere to when you get to the testing center. You want to arrive about 10 or 15 minutes early. And once you check in with the receptionist, they will allow you to have access to a locker. You have to put your jacket, in your phone, your wallet, your purse, anything that you have on your person has to go in this locker. You can't open that locker until you're done with the test. So you can't take anything into the testing center. So I had a person recently tell me they had some chapstick in their pocket. They had to put that in their locker. They can't take it in. Can't take anything in to the testing center. Now, the testing center will give you 6 pieces of paper and a couple of pencils. There is a calculator in the software. Now, some testing centers may give you a whiteboard instead. You have no way of demanding a piece of paper and pencil. If you get the whiteboard, sorry, you have a little whiteboard to take your notes and do the calculations on. I prefer the paper and pencil. I'm sure you would too, but that's just the rules and the preference of the testing center, so be aware of that. All right, there you go. That's the big picture on how you qualify for the test and then what's the test like. Let's keep going.